Hello and welcome to our not so bi-weekly Devstream, our once in a while Devstream that we do when we have an update.
When we
Um,
have time. We have time, Matt. Sometimes.
sometimes we don't even do it. Hi and welcome. We are Siege Camp. For a lot of people, a lot of people probably haven't watched all the dev streams. There are probably people here who have watched every single one of them, which I think is pretty darn cool. My name is Matt. Above me is HB.
Hello. So happy to be back.
Over here is
Yeah.
Mark. Over here is Max. And up
Hello.
here is Julian.
Hey.
We are going to talk about a really big update for Foxhole. And
Well,
yeah, Mark, why don't you start us off here?
hope everyone read the 1.0 frequently asked questions page. You guys all read it, right?
Yeah, everybody always
Yeah,
reads
yeah.
FAQs. Like it's
Yeah.
just always
People
happens.
love reading text before they hit the checkbox button every
I
single
think
time.
they know, for instance, that like we're bringing back community highlights right now, and it's a special one because
That's
it's like
why
a
you're here.
Yeah.
it's a 1 hour community highlights.
Yeah.
1 hour of
Yeah.
community highlights.
We're
is
bringing
how
it back.
We're
We're
bringing
gonna
it back.
start the stream.
So get
So
ready.
get your popcorn. But no, if there is one point take away from the FAQ is that this update is going to be very similar to the update we pushed out last year. It's just another update, and next year there's going to be another one. And while 1.0 does seem kind of special, it is cool, and there's certainly going to be some cool stuff that we're going to be putting to the game. At the same time, it's just the same, and we're just the same, and we're doing the same thing we've been always doing. We're going to be doing the same thing that we've always going to be doing for the next year, and hopefully for many years to come. So that's it.
Just
You didn't read. Yep. Sorry, go on.
sorry, Matt. A lot of people are saying that it's
Saying
really
that
cool.
I've like doubled the volume, so
Okay, so should be good.
Cool. Well,
Very
I'm glad
excited about
everyone
this.
got that important information.
That because nobody could hear you.
I mean, hey, it was just turn up their if it's too quiet, just turn up your volume too, because we're pretty loud here based on the metrics I have. So
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to cover before we start is that we won't be covering every single thing coming in the update in this stream because this time's going to be limited. So we're gonna be covering what we can, and then we're going to be following up in a blog post after, and probably next week with anything that we may have missed. So
One last thing. Apparently now we have people saying that Matt is too loud and everybody else is still too low. So
yeah, I can see the chat, guys. Don't worry. Just keep going.
great. Awesome. Let's get on with it. So before we start, for everyone that's new, just wanted to give a little bit of a history on where we've been and what we've been doing for the last 5 years. We started down this path 6 years ago when we wanted to make Foxhole, and everyone thought that we were nuts. We were a team of 7, and we wanted to build this crazy, persistent World War game where it seemed crazy at the time. We were like, hey, there's going to be thousands of people in this world. They're all going to be working together. All things in the war are going to be made by the players. There's going to be supply lines. They're going to be sent up by the players. And all we did was set a couple of goals at the start, and we just stuck to those goals for the last 5-6 years. And just to talk about a few of them. One is we always have a gameplay first approach. And that's why we don't do things like selling microtransactions. We are always our concern over that is we don't want to make decisions that are going to make the game worse. And we feel like when you start selling microtransactions, that you're going to start thinking about other things like how am I going to change the game to accommodate the microtransactions instead of trying to make the game the best it can be. The next thing is that we're always going to be trying to push the envelope on the game design side, and this doesn't always land the right way. But and sometimes you guys are going to be You guys are gonna be very loud about it when we don't get things right, but we're always going to try to take risks. We're always gonna try to take risks if it's gonna push the envelope. If we think it's gonna get us closer to the goals, we're that's what we're gonna do. But the positive side of that is if something doesn't come out perfect, we're gonna keep working on the game. We're gonna make it better. So um, doesn't always work out. I'm sure you guys have seen in the past, but we're always gonna be there. We're gonna work on the next update. We're gonna fix the issues. We're gonna make it better. And those are the few things that we've stuck to, and we're gonna continue to stick to in the future. So yeah, that's basically where we've been. We've gone through 50 updates at this point, including this one, and 8 major releases. So these are 8 larger updates where we add a whole bunch of content. We try to take huge strides in the big updates, and yeah, we've grown from a team of 7 to a team of around 20 now. So it's been a long journey. And to kind of recap what happened last year, we wanted to do a really big update for 1.0, and there was so much we wanted to do for it that we had to split it up into 2 updates. So we had the entrenched update last year, and that added a bunch of features on the base building side. And here we are today with the second half of the 1.0 update. And I think this update's a little bigger, and I think it's cooler. But yeah, I guess we'll see. But again, like I said at the beginning, this is just another step in the journey. We're gonna have another big update probably next year, and we're just gonna continue on as usual. So,
Well, I'm going to correct you here. There's 9 major updates.
I screwed up.
And counting the one that we are right now.
9.
And there's
keep track-
there's
I
10.
keep track of the numbers.
50 is a lot of updates, though, I have to say.
Yeah. So we're, like I said, we're already looking in December. We are going to plan, that's roughly when we're going to be releasing the post 1.0 update. And if you've been with us for long enough, you'll know that in the smaller updates, we tend to focus on smaller features, improving workflows, improving the game balance. And early next year, we're going to do another one. And then, past that, it's just going to be the same. Next year is going to look a lot just the same as this year. So,
and in the future, for the future updates, we're going to be submerged in a lot of hard work. So
that's going to be exciting. Okay, so let's just dive right into the first feature.
Very cool
Very
stuff.
dope.
This
That's
is
great.
really nice.
Yeah, so basically, this new features is called facilities, and facilities is a brand new player activity for logistics, and logistics has always been at the heart of Foxhole, but for so many years now, and I think even people on our own team have always felt this way. That logistics has been a really neat concept, and it's cool in the context of the war, but on its own, the gameplay hasn't always been the best, right? You're sort of doing the same activity over and over again. You don't see any progression, and we've been working almost a year on this feature, maybe longer. And we feel like facilities is a huge next step for Foxhole on the logistics side, and we're basically every feature we're going to show you today is going to tie back into facilities because facility is going to unlock a whole new branch of the game. And just to walk through some of what it's all about, basically facilities are player built industrial bases. So they're going to be these new type of base instead of a bunker base. You're going to be building out a logistics base where you can create new resources. You can produce new weapons and equipment. You're gonna it's gonna change the way that the tech tree works in some ways, and we're gonna talk about that later. I'm sure everyone is gonna be really excited about that.
Yeah.
And most importantly, players are finally gonna be able to scale up their logistics operations, right? So instead of doing the same thing over again, logistics power is going to increase throughout the span of the war. And one note that I want to make here is that facilities is gonna expand upon the existing logic game. It is not going to replace it. So the existing logistics game is still going to be here. There, you're still going to be doing the same thing, but this will just unlock an entire new branch of content for the game. And that last point there, one of the most important things about facilities is that in the context of Foxhole, um, it's going to serve as a strategic target for the enemy, but it's going to be a player driven target right now. So besides just going for the victory points, targeting the enemy facilities is going to become a huge part of the game.
It's
Um,
amazing. I think that the first time I recall you like talking about something like this, it goes back as far as the shippable containers. So those of you who remember when the shippable containers came out, like that was when we started these conversations about what we eventually wanted to see from logistics. And most of you probably don't even remember when shippable containers came out because it was that long ago. So
But yeah, it's like
yeah,
what, 2 years almost, if you consider how long we've been talking about this kind of things.
exactly, Max. And I think on that point, I've always felt that every logistics update that we've done, and most specifically the one where we introduced the shipping containers back in update 26, we've always wanted to reach for something like this, but we just didn't have the time and resources to do it. And this is why I'm so excited about this now.
It's worth noting as well that the old and this new Logi, like they interact with each other too. Like there's some cool interactions that happen.
It's an
Yeah,
extension, it's not a
Mhm.
replacement.
Yeah.
and Max, maybe you want to talk a little bit more about what it actually feels like um, to try to build a facility in the game.
yeah, sure. Um, So as Mark said earlier, we're going to hopefully see some changes to the tech tree. But it won't be dramatically different than what you guys are used to. So don't get your hopes up about that. There will be the hope here is that when you guys are developing these facilities, it's going to feel a little bit like you're going to start small, and as the game progresses, you're going to get larger and larger facilities. My hope is that, or our hope is that you guys will want to cooperate between facilities. So it's not like you're just going to build one giant giga facility that the entire faction uses. Our hope is that everybody on the team will work together to produce bigger and better things. And we have added. The system is extremely complicated, so hopefully you guys will be able to help us out with balancing it. But the idea is that you guys will want to try to optimize transportation, not just to the front line, but to each other's facilities. Um, and yeah, you'll want to manage your power grids, your liquid transportation. So much to talk about there, which I will wait until the end to really get into detail for.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so much here. You can see a lot of it in these screenshots. Those pipes are not just there for aesthetics; they have real gameplay consequences. Just like the catwalks, just like those silos, all of these structures here, everything here is interactable. The power lines, nothing here is just for looks. Everything here has a use and a purpose, which is something we've always wanted from these facilities.
Yeah, and in fact, one of the big challenges in developing this feature is that um, that surprised us because we never had this problem in the past. Where actually playing through all the content has been a bottleneck. So as part of the balancing process, usually in the past updates, when we, for example, worked on the artillery game, we can just sort of like play through all the artillery content. We can play through it like as many times as we want. We can fine tune it, but with this feature, it's like pretty much playing a factory building simulator or a town building simulator, and it takes that long just for a single playthrough. So it turns out that the testing process itself was a big part of development, which is a new challenge that we haven't seen before. So I personally think it's the most amount of depth that we've ever seen in a feature in Foxhole, and that's why it excites me so much because um, it's it it has that depth, but at the same time, it's plopped into the rest of the war, right? So there's still going to be partisans attacking these places. You're going to be making the output of your factory simulator is going to actually be going to the front to actual players. It's not You're not just going to be happy to have built it for the sake of building it. You're going to be happy because you're going to be helping your team. And this feature I'm just really super excited about. But let's move on and start talking about what facilities is actually going to bring to the game. Um, and here's just a slide showing off a bunch of the resources that are coming. So there's going to be tons of new resources as a part of this game, and they're going to be used towards building tons of new structures and vehicles and tech. But let's show you what the first cool thing facilities is going to do. All right, so the first thing is resource automation. Um, so one of the big things in Foxhole is that the resource grind never changes. So now with facilities, you can change it, right? You can make it better over the war. There's a lot of really cool things you can build. And maybe Max, you want to get into it a little bit about these things?
Yeah, sure. Stop me if I'm going too far and I'm overlapping some future slide. So
Will do.
pipelines. So as you guys know, fuel in this game has been somewhat basic to this point. And so for this update, we wanted to go into depth about liquids and fuel transportation because as we all know, liquid and oil fuels in general have always been a big part of warfare and a huge part of logistics. So we're hoping to tap into that a little bit. The pipes, the overhead pipes, the underground pipes, all of this stuff is meant to simulate a kind of localized localized transport system so that you can move liquids more easily around your base. You're not micromanaging driving up to every single base with your oil tankers and your shippable fuel things, or shippable fuel containers, which you guys saw in the video. Lots to talk about there, but I would go on for a long time, so I'll move on. Similar to the to those pipes, we have the mine carts. When you're in the facility creating these new resources, they're going to be harder to move than your normal resources, and you're going to need to create a localized transportation system, both for moving these large materials and for the outputs of those materials around your base. So so you're not just driving trucks up to every single base, and hopefully there will be enough gameplay there that you guys will be able to optimize your facilities. You'll be able to build the rails. You'll be able to build the switches, as you guys saw in the video, so you can connect these railways and have different paths that go through your base. There'll be multiple types of cars that carry different types of resources, and hopefully we made it as sandboxy as possible so that you guys can come up with new ways to use it that we didn't even think of.
You can still use trucks if you want to, or you can optimize it much better with this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or if you want to do it on foot, Julian.
Oh yeah, you can. Yeah, you can just carry all the
do
heavy
that.
items.
There's
Yeah.
one resource
Quick
at a
logi,
time.
best logi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Powered harvesters, you guys can. I think this is something that people have been asking for us since the very inception of the game. Is that you don't want to just hold down left click to gather resources. So we've created some ways for you guys to automate that process as well. Yeah.
I think this is with that one. It's worth noting that you can still left click to all you want at the scrap nodes. This thing is at the scrap nodes, but it's leaving all those nice pieces for you to hit with a hammer if you really want to.
Yeah, so these harvesters will, if you put the work into setting them up, if you put the work into fueling them, they will essentially do the scrapping for you. But if you want to do it manually, that option is, of course, still there for you. Or if you didn't want to go through the work of progressing your facility. How about that fuel station? It's been a while.
We have had this fuel station in our project files for like a year and a half.
What do you mean? It's been in the home regions.
It's in the home region.
Yeah.
But we have always intended to bring this to you guys. The reason it kept getting pushed was because of a lot of this stuff. It was stuff we knew we wanted to do, and we didn't want to give you guys half of what we wanted. We wanted to give you guys the whole picture. So it was never held back for any other reason other than we wanted to give it to you in its completed state, not some half-baked state. And it's finally here. Now the shippable container that you've always wanted has finally come to Foxhole.
So you can say that facility started as the liquid shippable container, and then the rest feature creeped out. Like we feature creeped for 2 years and expanded into the rest, right?
Pretty much.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's move on to the next thing that facility is going to bring us. Oh, I always this is my worst thing. I always
You just
move
forget
on
that they're
before
like
we
the.
actually on there. But yeah, this is just a close look at the minecart system, and a couple of vehicles that are available. So there's going to be the actual minecart, which is there to store the raw resources. So that's the equivalent of your dump truck now. That's equivalent to your truck that carries your sulfur, your scrap efficiently. And then you have the flatbed, which is there to carry your large items, right? So there's going to be new materials that are large, but you'll be able to basically carry any large item.
So this is the first vehicle slide of Inferno. But I want to point out, just in case it's not clear from this picture, when you build one, you're not building all three. Those are each an individual asset, and you can get as many flatbeds as you want or as many coal cars as you want. It's not like that's not one thing.
Yeah, the BMS Mineseeker is specifically the locomotive. So the other cars are totally separate.
Great. Now we'll move on to the next feature. All right, so players will be able to lay down new infrastructure finally, right? So again, going back to that theme, facilities is going to increase your logi power throughout the war, right? Concrete foundations, obviously they're a big part of building a facility. You want to be able to build them on flat land. You can make a dock if you want to. So what's exciting about this is that we've already seen players trying to build out these massive ports in the game, right? With zero tools, right? It's actually really amazing. We've seen players use the standard vehicle crane. So we wanted to not only provide a static crane, but go further and provide a crane that is on rails. And just to be clear, this rail is also built by players. It can be scaled. It can be made as long as you want. So it's just completely a sandbox tool to allow you to build your own ports and create your own shipping centers in the world. And this last point here, maybe Max, you were pushing hard for this one, so maybe you could talk about the roads.
Provisional roads. I mean, what is there to say about this except that like the players, you guys have been pushing for buildable roads for a really long time. There are obviously we have to we have a couple of limitations placed on them, so please don't get too excited. Players have been wanting to be able to build their own roads for a very, very long time. And yeah, I think it was just finally time to add them. We wanted to make sure that you guys didn't feel constrained to building your facilities next to the roads that we placed, that we wanted you guys to be able to place your facilities where you wanted to. And one of the requirements for that was you'd obviously need to be able to build a road to it. But that being said, and Matt will attest that the current existing roads that are placed in the world are still going to be the most significant for your strategic high level planning.
So, yeah, the Sky Hauler is the heavy rail crane that was shown in the video, and this is honestly in my top 3 pieces of content in this update. I just think it's the mountain goal for Logi. Well, maybe there's some other ones that we'll talk about, but it is one of the mountain goals for Logi in the game. And if you upgrade your facility enough, again, the one thing I want to stop and point out is a lot of these things we're showing, they require work, right? So you do have to build up your facility. You have to play the facility game throughout the war. It's not just going to be at the beginning. Everybody gets one of these. If you can achieve something like a Sky Hauler, it means you already gone through a whole bunch of work. Or if you didn't go through it, someone in your clan has gone through it, someone on your faction has gone through it, and they're able to share these things with you, right?
I'll just speak to that. We tried hard to capture that feel of like a proper dock crane. We made sure that both vehicles can move underneath it, so you can straddle like a road with it if you want, or we definitely made sure that the shipping containers will fit under it, so you can stack shipping containers and just straddle them and go over top. And we were like, I don't know, I'm excited for this. We really tried to make it cool.
It's gonna be cool to see what people ultimately do with this.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think this is for Logi players. We've seen what facilities can do, but for everyone else, and I think this is like represents a lot of players, what they can see facilities going to do on the combat side, on the tech side.
We've shown you how to build Logi. Now let's show you how to destroy it. So.
Oh, that's a good line. All right. Yeah, so this is a huge deal. Basically, how facilities is gonna influence tech and change the way that players build their vehicles. So obviously, it wouldn't be a big update with a whole bunch of new vehicles. There's going to be new types of emplacements, new field guns for both factions, new tank variants. But an amazing thing, we've heard a lot of feedback from you guys over the years. We're giving people the freedom to build basically any variant that they want. You don't have to vote in the tech tree. If you have the facility to do it, you can build a variant. And how you're going to do this is you're going to take the base vehicle of the base version of a vehicle, so a light tank, for example. And if you wanted to produce a variant of the light tank, you can go ahead, you bring to facility. Again, if someone on your team or yourself has gone through the work to build a facility, they can make any variant we want. So full freedom, right? And at the same time, higher tier tanks, right? It sucks to have to wait for the whole tech tree to wrap around to the point where the war is close to the end before you get to make a higher tier tank. Now, if you have the facility for it, if you produce the resources, if you've gone through the work, you can upgrade any of these vehicles. There's a couple of exceptions, but you can almost upgrade any vehicle to second and third tier completely free of the constraints of the tech tree, right? And we're just so pumped about this.
The tech tree still exists. You're still unlocking your tech. You're still voting, but then once you unlock facilities, you're basically cheating that and doing whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, the basic tech tree is still going to be there for unlocking the base version of the vehicles, but in terms of the variants, players are going to have the freedom, so there won't be a case where your faction voted for some other tank and now you can't use it in this war. If you built a facility, you can build the variant, right?
Right. So now you can build the Scorpion tank without having to pick it on the tree. I know everybody's been wanting to build Scorpion tanks.
We'll finally see 2 in the world. It'll be great.
And the new ammo types, you guys want to talk about that?
Oh yeah. So we've had the 75 millimeter before in the game, and we're bringing it back for all the big guns. And we have introduced the 94.5 millimeter anti-tank shell as well, which is the kind of counterpart. We have the 40 and the 68, and now we have the 75 and the 94.5 is kind of the counter to it. And Max, you can speak to how it's made and whatnot.
Yeah, there's been some differences to the so many of you who played the game a long time ago might remember the 75 millimeter shell. There's been some changes to it. We're hoping it won't be it will feel different from what you remember. So expect larger explosions, we hope. But
we know.
Expect, yeah. Yeah, I feel like we'll talk more about this later, so I won't get too
yeah. So we're going to go through a gauntlet of new content. So we'll try to get through this.
This is
Because-
part one, guys.
we want to. Do we want to point out though that the two ammo types are heavy items right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
right.
you'll see the count how destructive they are will speak to why they're heavy items.
Yeah. So maybe we can jump right into all the vehicles. There's going to be some that are not a part of the stream. Like I said, there's just too much content, and there are a couple of things that we might miss, but we'll follow up next week. So if there's something that wasn't here, I'm not saying it's going to come next week, but there's a small chance there might be a few more things in the works, right?
This tank, the Talos, is a while ago. Some people in the community were asking me if the Falchion is done with its variants, if we were just if it had the two, and I repeatedly said no. We have more. So we made this giant monster turret and stuck it on the Falchion, which I really like. Historically, I really like examples where armies kind of pushed their technology to the limits, where they strained the chassis of a tank too far, and we wanted to represent that in the game, and that's how this came about. Yeah, there's your front and back shot. Matt's go nuts.
The heavy field gun is basically the 94.5 millimeter is, consider it the AT equivalent to the battle tank ammo. So just like light tanks have a AT ammo, so too do the battle tank ammos have an AT variant or an AT version of it. And that's what this field gun is meant to fire. This is, we hope, will feel as powerful in the game as the field weapons currently do. We wanted the field weapons to feel like the infantry had a fighting chance against some of these larger vehicles coming into the game, and so this was just a good opportunity to give them the tools they needed for that.
And for old players, if you remember how destructive the 75 millimeter was to a light tank back then this is light tanks have something to fear.
Yeah, and as we this piece of content alongside some of the other larger vehicles, just want to say that these are harder to produce, so they're sort of part of that set of mounting goals that we have in the game. And this is the counter to those mountain goal tanks, right?
The Wardens get a nice 75 one, and I really like the model fit. I like how this one came out. But their field equivalent is the 75 millimeter, and I can't wait for you guys to just to see it in action, because the 75 is really cool.
Yeah. Interesting story behind this and these two previous field weapons is that we actually designed those battle tank and the AT tank field weapons a long time ago, and when we introduced these high velocity field guns, we actually did it at the last minute because we didn't want to bring the battle tank ammo back in yet until this update. So these ones were put in sort of as a stand-in to a deal with issues with the meta at those times. And so these weapons ended up being more powerful than we expected them to be, more than we wanted them to be. So, and we've been hearing feedback about these for months about how they're too strong, and that's the main motivation why. So these ones have been these field weapons are going to be brought back into line with where we always intended them to be, so that they're not just the end all of field weapon of weapons, but they'll still be powerful. And then you guys will have these new larger caliber variants to go along with it.
Cool. So what we are doing with emplacements is they are now going to be faction specific. Everything that is in the game now is technically designed to look Warden. So we are introducing some colonial variants of those, some counterparts to them. This one Mark particularly liked the design of when we were working on it. I love it.
I love this one.
Yeah. So they're getting their anti-infantry machine gun. There's your front and back. And here is their AT equivalent, which is a very unique weapon. It's firing the arc rounds, the Piot launcher rounds, but it does it quite uniquely. It's obviously double barreled. And yeah, it's just a badass looking little like pug gun. Max, you can talk to the large scale emplacement.
Yep. So these large scale emplacements are going to be firing those extra large rounds. It's important to note that these weapons don't stack ammo inside them. They have to be loaded similar to artillery. So you have to bring them up one at a time. You need to have ammo stockpiles nearby brought in by hand. But we hope that their power, where they sit on the power curve, will be well worth that extra effort to field them.
And there's your Warden version, or different cal. One gets a 94.5, the other one gets a 75, but they will both have the large or heavy emplacement cannons. Cool. One of my favorite new tanks. This is an advanced variant of the Outlaw, and it is basically a unique indirect anti-tank option. We had a cool idea to try to get, if we could get a second rank of Warden tanks firing, that would be the trade-off for the weaker hit points that the weaker hit points that the Outlaw tanks have. So we're attempting something unique, and it's a really fun tank to play.
Julian's excited about this one, but the entire balance team is very worried about this one. So.
I don't care about them.
Yeah, it's actually has a funny point. There's always this contention between the not always, but sometimes there's a contention between the balance team and the concepting team, because concepting team comes up with some really cool stuff and then shows the balance team. Balance team's like, how are we gonna do this?
Hey.
But it's really cool because I think it allows us to always push the envelope on the concepts, making the game as cool as it can be, and then at the same time, just being able to get it into the game in a way that works well. Right?
I consider it part of my job to challenge the balance team. Like I want to make their life hard. So there's your front and back shot. I love this tank.
Great. All right. So we've seen sort of more new vehicles, new weapons, using, more or less the kind of tech that
conventional weapons.
Conventional weapons. We have larger shells, but maybe we can start looking at something entirely new, right?
So we get to the Inferno part of the Inferno update.
Yeah. I don't know why we call it this update Inferno.
I don't know. Let's change it.
Let's change it now. It's going to be called Logi Update.
Bone Wagon.
We're finally adding fire weapons into the game, and there's going to be a host of new content around this, anywhere from infantry flamethrowers, armored cars, tanks, larger tanks, the entire
And
spectrum,
more.
basically. Yeah. And yeah, I don't know if there's I mean there is. Max, maybe you can get into all the cool things that about fire, because I know that you know, you're one of the ones on the team that push hard to make it not just a simple mechanic that looked cool, but you wanted it to be more, right?
This one was a
Yeah.
lot of work.
This I think everybody on the team for goals for this, for fire weapons in general, has been we wanted to see like towns on fire. We wanted to see it was a very real problem during like actual like combat. You have to deal with fire. We wanted it to be something that you have to consciously think about as a defender and as an attacker to supplement an attack, not be the sole focus of. So one of the most exciting parts of this feature that I'm most excited about was that it spreads dynamically through the towns by wind conditions. So hopefully we can balance this right, is that it should be considered a strategy that setting a town on fire will enable the defenders, or will occupy defenders, may not necessarily destroy the town, but will occupy them in order to give you a chance to push in and take ground. Or if the defenders are negligent and choose not to deal with this dynamic problem, that it could rage out of hand and become untenable. So we'll see where it lands with that, but super excited for that. The flames can be extinguished by water buckets. I really wish we had a video for this. What we really want to see with this is strings of players bringing water to the buildings that are on fire and putting them out by like daisy chaining these water groups from rivers, from wells, from water resources, which we talked about earlier. You'll be able to bring water into the town via truck and logistics, or like if there's water sources nearby, like in lakes, you can source it from there as well. So there will be some parts of the world with very little water that are harder to deal with these flame problems, and yeah, hopefully it'll be pretty cool.
And one of the thing. Oh, sorry, you go
I was
first.
just gonna say you can light on fire more than just towns as well, right? Like the player defenses and all that stuff can go up.
Oh yeah, the secret to destruction is everything burns.
The one thing that I really excited about for this feature is how hard that we work to make sure that fire interacts with the rest of the sandbox in a way that is natural, so we don't add in. We have done in the past, and we're trying to do less of it, adding these sorts of like one-off type of mechanics. But in this case, I'm happy because, for example, the water buckets interacts with the resource of water now, which is also used in the facility. So it's just, again, another part of the sandbox. The fact that it interacts with the weather system is another thing that is just a part of the sandbox. And fact that fire spreads according to the wind is already something there. It affects other parts of the game, um, like artillery trajectories. So basically, as we start developing more and more of these features, we always want to look back and say, how can we tie it back into the sandbox, right?
I think on that note as well, the temperature of your player is also impacted. So while with weather you can freeze, if you're standing in a burning building, you're going to heat up and eventually catch on fire. And also down to the water, if you have the time, I mean, if you're burning, you're gonna die pretty fast. But if you have the time and you can jump into a river, you will extinguish the fire because water puts out fire. So just to kind of like follow through that whole thought of like the sandbox.
There's another tying it into old features too, because we could freeze you and now we can burn you. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's a look at the infantry flamethrowers. I believe the way this works is that the torch, the weapon, the flamethrower is a weapon, and the backpack is an equipable. It's basically like an equipable ammunition. So you burn through it, and then you get another one, I believe is the idea. So it works in a unique way, but it feels very good when you're actually playing, when you're lighting stuff on fire. And to look at some of the flame variants. I went through, when I was designing this stuff, I decided that these would be variants of existing vehicles because there are some, but there's fewer examples of a brand new tank from scratch being built as a dedicated like flamethrower vehicle. I think the Germans had one in World War II. But so we went the path of having variants, which is very cool because we got to basically pick and choose the ones that we wanted to toss a flamethrower on and toss a flamethrower on them. There is some of these say in the main armament, some of these say flamethrower and some say heavy. That's basically just a differentiating between the range of the flamethrower, because it's worth noting that the different flamethrowers have different effective ranges too, which is really cool. Yeah, and the tankette and the armored car, basically your infantry flamethrower with vehicle armor to avoid small arms, because flamethrower trooper is going to be a pretty available target to other infantry.
Yeah. One thing I did want to bring up that we didn't talk about, Max, is how you can produce the ammunition for this and supply it up to the front.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, this goes back also to the large ammo. We were the 75 millimeter, this 94.5 millimeter, this flame ammo. The stuff that you're going to need for this is all going to come from facilities. It's all going to be a part of that system. So being able to produce these kind of weapons is going to be a part of your new logistics chain.
And here are the tanks. So if you want something with more heavier armor to actually be able to survive maybe a sticky grenade or two, yep, with bigger flamethrowers on tanks.
Vulcan and the Firebrand.
Yeah. Everything's got cool lore names, and I legitimately can't decide on my favorite of all of the flame. Like every time if I see one in isolation in a screenshot, I'm like, yeah, that's my favorite flamethrower tank. And then I see the next one, I'm like, that's my favorite flamethrower tank. But I do love this one.
I really like the Firebrand, I got to admit.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
It's got that pugnacious kind of, yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I always like to see more variants of this tank because it's just been such a cool thing in the game.
It looks really aggressive. It's like a pit bull. Like it's,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like I don't know how else to describe it.
And there's your front and back for anyone taking screen caps right now.
All right. Well, let's look at the next
feature.
How else will we destroy stuff?
I'll take a sip of water. Okay. Next piece of tech. Everyone's ready.
Well, the hits keep coming, huh?
All right. I think this one's been a long time coming.
It's like one of the first things people were requesting, I remember.
Was it?
Yeah, just like right when we launched. Are you gonna do?
Yeah. So Max, what is different about rocket artillery versus standard artillery that we have right now?
So there are two types of artillery coming to the game, or two types of rocket artillery coming to the game. One is more damage focused, but with a small element of fire, and then another that is more incendiary. So both rockets will be able to ignite fires, but some are more specialized at it than others. Yeah. What else to say about
Well,
that?
It's just,
They will also be included with the facilities production, like logistics chain.
it's a like brand new the ammunition, the rockets are a brand new heavy item, just like artillery shells. You're obviously like this is whereas our artillery is considered more accurate for our is as accurate as artillery is. This is going for weight of fire and rapid fire at the cost of accuracy, as you saw with that sweet army of Warden trucks that was driving forward in the clip. That these rockets are intended to land all over the place and have almost a psychological effect. It's kind of neat to be standing around when they start raining down all over.
yeah, I think from the introduction of artillery, even really early on when we had the very, very old pre-winter army artillery, um, we've always made it a point to try to make the experience of being shelled feel really immersive in the game, and we kind of set the standard at the beginning, and I'm glad we've kind of had to carry that through. It's kind of every time it's like, oh, we can't, now that it feels like this next one, it can't feel any worse. It's like the bar kind of risen the bar at a very early stage, and we've kind of had to keep that with us. But let's go through a couple of these variants.
Cool. I think everyone watching right now knows what vehicle we're referencing when we show this thing off as one of our most requested. Will you do this thing? But yeah, here's the Colonial Rocket Artillery truck. It's got 16, can load up to 16 rockets on it. Obviously, one theme is that these are slow to reload, more difficult to aim than artillery. And the payoff is just launching all the rockets at once, which feels badass. There's the front and back. And the Warden one, which is my personal favorite, and I mean like favorite vehicle. I just love this thing. I went back and tried to find some really obscure old French references and found something that was perfect. And yeah, this thing uniquely, what Max had said before, this thing's going to fire a unique incendiary rocket, which there's a different like in game, there's two distinct models for the regular rockets and the incendiary rockets. And this thing's just a little beast.
And the wasp nest.
This model has existed for close to like 2.5 years at this point.
Yeah, I think we planned this a while ago.
We planned these this was when we were still doing faction symmetry. This was when we started planning this stuff. So to counter the Colonials' advantage with their pushable 120 millimeter light artillery, the Wardens have a pushable set of rocket artillery now, and that was the idea with this.
All right, we're starting to get close to the end. There's going to be one more piece of tech here that we'll take a look at.
The chonkers have arrived.
So why are we bringing back the battle tank style, Max? Tell us.
So
Yeah.
we took out the battle tanks ages ago because we had problems with balancing them. There wasn't enough levers in the game logistically to differentiate them from other types of tanks. So now that we have facilities, we feel like we have the capability to bring them back in a way that's meaningful. Our hope is that these heavy tanks will be supplemental to the rest of the tanks in the game. They're not going to completely outclass them. And the same can be said about the super tanks.
The super tanks. So, and I keep saying you guys who've been playing for a while, but you guys who've been playing for a while might remember me constantly bugging you about new vehicle 2020. And here's a new vehicle that it's not the year 2020 anymore.
We're still in the 2020, so you got 8 more years.
Anyways, we wanted to explore the depths of the attempted super heavy tanks during World War II as a unique kind of end game tank that's really hard to produce, really hard to crew, really hard to fuel. But the payoff is obviously in its unique like offensive power and what it brings to an individual fight. So the Warden Predator, Wardens have always had a kind of naval theme going on with all this stuff, so we really wanted that land battleship theme going on with its unique array of armaments. And there's your really nice renders. And then the Colonial Super Tank, which this is one of Mark's personal favorites and Mark's personal request to have a dual battle cannon tank in the game. And you could, again, older players will remember the APC from before, and we decided to expand on the lore and kind of logic of how the Colonials make their APC and expand it into a full-on super tank. So that's what we did. And again, this is it's when you see it, it's smaller than the other one, but it's they go toe-to-toe in a versus fight. It's a really unique fight to experience.
I was gonna call this tank like an assassin, but it's more like a barbarian.
Yeah,
it's gonna come at you with full force, and good luck.
Yeah, something cool about these tanks and why we wanted to add them into the game for so long, not just for the gameplay side, but on the lore side. I won't get into too much, but in the long history in the world, at some point in the world, there existed even larger tanks. And obviously, some of that technology no longer exists in the present timeline that the game is, but we wanted to bring some aspect of that into the current timeline, right? So
yeah,
it's really cool.
And we want with how many we hope that will be deployed on average. We want to capture that like these are these are rare, these take a lot of effort to make a new one, basically.
Yeah, like just to again go back to the facilities, this is not going to be an easy tank to make. It's going to be one of the hardest things in the game, so just be ready for that. And yeah, I think we've kind of reached the end, guys. What do you guys think?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's good enough for.
There's definitely a little bit of stuff we got to follow up with, but yeah, this is going to be a really exciting update, guys. I don't
know, Matt. I think we missed something.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
I don't know. I think we've we may.
No, that's it. There's no like we don't. There's no way we have more features.
We can't top what we just showed off.
I'm kind of tired. Maybe we should stop.
Got it down.
Yeah.
Does anybody even fall for any of those?
Probably not.
Probably.
No,
I tried to make it natural, but I don't think it worked.
Let us have our fun
at all.
Let us have our lame moment that's super cringy, okay, HB?
Yeah, HB.
But there's
just one more thing.
Just one more.
Just one more. Just one more thing.
Just one more thing. All right.
That's cool.
What's this thing called again? I don't remember.
It's a thing on thingies that moves fast.
Mine cart? I don't know.
It's a large minecart.
Yeah, large mine carts confirmed.
Trains confirmed. I mean, how long has it been, guys, that people have been asking for this?
Since day one.
5
5
years.
Yeah.
Literally when we first put it on Steam.
Yeah,
it's
so
one of the first things I heard was like, you guys need to add trains.
yeah, so when we first started to sit down to work on this, it's been a while. We knew the huge challenge to actually have player built tracks, a player built network, but we knew from the beginning it wasn't even a question in our mind. That tracks have to be player driven, right? So like I know among the community, there's always been this question: fixed tracks versus player built tracks, but Foxhole is a player driven game, and we want to make sure that players can build the tracks themselves, and these rails can span the entire world. And we've provided tools to make that happen. You can fork off your rails. There are switches to switch between those to switch between your rails. There's tracks can be elevated, as we know that the landscape isn't flat in Foxhole. So we really want to give players the tools to build these entire networks themselves. And our vision for trains is that trains on the logistics side is used to cross to haul lots of equipment um, over over many regions, but then local logistics happens conventionally with the truck. So we know there has been this issue, especially as the war goes on, and the supply lines get longer and longer, that it requires more and more driving. And what our goal is, we want driving to be more on the local scale. So trains are not intended, to be clear, to be driven all the way up, at least on the logistics side. Trains are not intended to deliver supplies straight to a frontline base or a fob. Trains are intended to move um, uh, crates from rear line shipping centers, rear line logic towns, rear line facilities, up to storage depots and seaports at the front, right? So there's going to be a variety of types of cars, logistics, infantry transport. We have the infantry car. We can talk more about that after. One note that I want to make in terms of the actual experience of using the trains. Players can attach cars as they want. They can use the cranes to move cars around between the tracks, off the tracks. Trains are produced at the facilities. Materials to build the rails are produced at the facilities. Um, and in terms of and if you want to uncouple cars, you need to use a wrench. And one thing I want to talk about here is the roles. So there's obviously a driver, and there is a fireman role that can shovel coal into the engine and giving it a, a speed boost. So trains is also a cooperative activity. Um, and yeah, I think in Max, anything else to add in terms of balancing speed, anything like that?
Yeah, I think what you said was really important, that this is not something you deliver to the front line, but it does connect to, again, everything in this update connects back to facilities. You guys will notice that there's a bunch of vehicles on the back of these trains. One of the challenges that we know is going to come up with these facilities is, if you want the variant, you have to deliver the base chassis to the facility. So you're going to need to transport them in mass, which means trains. There's possibly hopefully there's way more applications to trains that we still haven't talked about that we don't have time to talk about on this stream. So yeah, hopefully you guys and you guys will tell us what what else there is to.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm excited to see what they do with trains.
Yeah.
I want to have a special shout out to both Casey and Leon on our team, because if I said earlier the other tasks were a lot of work, this was like a monumental amount of work. Trains.
I just want to say, like, the amount of like simulation thought that went into this is like unreal. We all know a lot more about trains than we used to.
Yeah.
To the point where like there's like a steam simulation with how much steam is expelled. Like, we did a lot of crazy stuff on this. I think it's been one of the coolest things to slowly see come together. We've been working on this for like active development for like a year.
Yeah.
It's almost like a mini game on its own. It's pretty.
It's
awesome.
definitely a mini game on its own.
And I think that facilities is right up there as kind of like its own game.
Yeah.
And,
and these were done in like parallel too. So it's been really cool to see come together as someone who is not necessarily actively in all that stuff until closer to the end. It was really, really awesome to play with all this stuff for the first time. One of the coolest things to me is that you actually need to couple the cars together like manually. Like, there's no magic here. You have to have a player outside coupling cars while another one's like, it's really cool. Like, I can't stress it enough.
Right.
That being said, yes, of course, trains can cross the border.
Yeah.
Yep. You can go from coast to coast with a train track if you want.
That has been asked a few times.
In this there's just something funny in this render. The flatbed's actually much bigger than the coal car. It's just they got scaled together.
Yeah. So the flatbed car works like a flatbed truck. So you can put any shippable onto it, except it will hold the larger vehicles like the tanks. And yeah, the coolest thing about this is seeing 10, 15 like of these cars all linked together, and just the massive amount of supplies you can move with this stuff is just insane. Like it's a bit of a surreal thing. Like, I don't want to like overhype it, but the first time you drive that train carrying all those supplies, it's something else. It's
okay.
pretty cool.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right.
Another thing I've seen in chat like quite a bit is like, oh, is the train going to be unsuitable and stuff? This is probably like the most robust. Like, tracks are probably one of the most robust things to build. That, and along with the foundations, those two things together are really, really cool. And it's going to be really hard to explain until you get your hands on it, but
there's a lot of moving.
Cool. You won't be able to like anything. You won't be able to build it absolutely everywhere. There's going to be terrain that's in the way, but these are definitely some of the more robust tools that we've built.
Infantry car. It's got the unique thing. It's got two tripod points on top, so you can attach any of the tripod weapons to it to help protect your train if you want. And then it just seats troops on the inside. I think the crew the total's 8, right? Because you have the 2 gunners and then the 6 interior seats. Mm-hmm. And combat cards, I pushed for this. I knew I wanted to have some faction-specific combat cards going on in the game, just to represent that era of time. I figured these might not be frontline vehicles, but they're definitely going to shake up like river crossings, some bridge battles and whatnot might be cool, and just keeping your backline defended. And specifically for this colonial one, if anyone likes the was it the phalanx, the relic tank there? Yeah, anyways, there's a node to that in this, which I think is pretty obvious. And the warden combat car, I wanted to make the 2 combat cars extremely different from each other, and that's basically how we ended at this beast of a machine with its cool twin turrets going on. Mark, you can talk about this.
Tempest Cannon.
Max, you can talk about this.
Matt, you can talk about this one.
It's a big.
I'll
It's a
talk
it's a
about
it's a
this.
storm cannon that you can move. It's pretty cool.
It's really awesome once you see it firing live in game and moving it around. It's obviously a mobile storm cannon, so you have freedom from the 9 tile bunker bases you have to make. But the trade-off being you can't always aim 360 degrees. It's limited to how you build your train tracks. It can pivot a tiny bit on its wheels in its chassis, but you got to plan with this thing.
One thing I really like is how this train moves along the track because it's unique compared to the other trains because it's just so long that to make the corners, the bogies at the front and the back have to rotate separately, and just kind of seeing the whole thing in action when it's moving along a curved rail is just, I don't know, it just looks really cool.
It's neat.
We're putting building train tracks has a hard mode to it where you can't build. Sometimes you can't build turns too tightly, basically.
For anybody who hasn't played the game yet and doesn't know what a storm cannon is,
Everybody knows.
Everybody knows this is a cannon artillery that can fire a very long distance, including across region borders. So that's the big deal with this.
It being
That's
mobile is a big deal.
Yeah. But we knew for his referencing history reasons, it was a must include for trains when we started planning it.
Yeah, I think this was almost right alongside the player built tracks.
Yep.
There was just these few things where it's like, okay, we have to have this. It was kind of funny because while trains was extremely challenging feature to work on, in terms of coming up with what we wanted to include the content, it was like we all just had the same idea in our minds. Like it just had to have these few things, and I'm sure a lot of people in the community share that same thought. Right?
Yep.
So
this is just the beginning. In future updates, I'm sure we'll see more. Train content. So
consider this. I've said it before on a different stream, but consider this the first offering. This is a system that we built that we want to expand into the future and future updates and whatnot.
Yeah, and the same goes for the facilities. In fact, for facilities, I would say it's maybe that's even more true, right? So
yep.
Almost everything that we showed today are things that we're introducing, even the flames as well.
Oh yeah, the flame.
More things that we can expand on it as with the next updates.
Yeah, and for facilities, there is one thing I want to point out. There's a really cool feature that we are thinking about, or we're working on for. It's not going to come anytime soon, but it's going to tie back into facilities, and facilities is going to be a big part of constructing something really cool in the future. So, so Foxhole's coming out. Inferno's coming out September the 28th. So look forward to that. There's going to be a bunch of activities happening that's just want to highlight between now and then. One is actually right after this stream. There's going to be a roundtable in the community hosted by I Saw Bear. So there's going to be a whole bunch of other streamers, community members that are a part of that. So highly recommend you go there and watch that.
We're going to raid them, by the way.
Yes, and we're also putting up a question and answer thread on Foxhole Reddit. So we'll after a short break, we'll get that up there, and we'll try to get your questions answered. And we're going to be posting a dev blog next Monday because, like I said, there's still some content that we didn't have time to show in the stream. We didn't want the stream to go on for 3 hours. So on the facility side, there's a lot of stuff that we didn't cover. There's other potentially other vehicle content that we just still weren't able to fit. And the dev branch we're targeting right now, if everything goes well, for it to open on September 13th. That's next Tuesday. It's going to be a cool concept art post on the 20th. You've seen this in the last couple of
Yep.
each updates. Julian's done a lot of concept art for this update, so that post I'm super looking forward to. And then September 28th is the big day. So
Hey.
that is all. And please go over watch the community roundtable. It's gonna be exciting. I know I'm gonna tune in for at least some time. So yeah, everybody head over there.
I'm gonna
Um,
initiate a raid.
is
Yeah.
I Saw Bear live right now?
Let's
Yeah,
check.
we should
I don't
probably check
want to
the-
I don't want to send everybody over there in this. But anyway, long story short, we're very, very excited to show off all this content to you guys. We've been, working very, very hard to prepare for this stream and prepare for this update, and we hope that you all really get to dig in and enjoy all this cool stuff. This is a huge update. Like, no, this time we're not pulling back and saying, oh, it's not a big up. This is a big update. This is going to shake up everything you know about Foxhole, and I think this is just the beginning.
It's more of the same as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I also want to do my regular spiel with regards to the dev branch for those of you guys who want to know how to get onto it, so you can help us with the feedback. It's on our Discord. We'll be posting the information on that day on how to get it, and how to provide your feedback to us. Please, please, please track all of your work. Post it into the feedback channels with as much evidence as you can. Videos are great. Spreadsheets are better. Well, videos are the best, but spreadsheets are great. But again, reiterating on Mark's point earlier, is that one of the biggest challenges this update is balance. So if you see anything that stands out as being wrong or unfair, try not to get too alarmed by it. Things are going to be constantly in motion. Balance is going to be constantly moving with you guys' feedback throughout the dev branch. So please, please, please give us as much information as you can, and we'll hopefully get a really great product by the time the September 28th comes around.
Awesome. So is I Saw Bear live?
Yep, it's all good.
All right, everybody,
Yeah.
head on over to I
Thanks a lot.
Saw Bear's channel. Enjoy this roundtable with the community. It should be pretty informative and a lot of great minds in there. But 1.0 is coming. Stay foxy.
Yeah. Very exciting. Bye, guys.
All
Later.
right. So the raid
Thanks for watching, everyone.
the raid has begun. So everybody, as soon as you should make sure you join up and go show I Saw Bear in the community stream some love here. It should be moving over in a few seconds. But yeah, we just want to thank everybody for coming out. By the way, we had like a peak of like 7,000 plus. So I just want to let y'all know now that now that the stream is over. So thanks everybody for coming out. It was really great. Yeah. Any last words for anybody before it moves over? We move over to I Saw Bear.
Special shout out to Phil too, because all the facility stuff, he did a tremendous amount of work on that.
Fair enough. I think that's deserved.
Yep.
You guys have a good one.
All right.
All right.
The raid has
Raid has begun.
begun.